Hello. Skip to this timestamp if you want to get right to the video and not want to listen to me quickly ramble about why I disappeared for like 8 months. But if you have been around and very patiently waiting for a video and want an explanation, I'll offer one real quick. If you're not interested or new here or just want to see the cool tornado story, I'll see you in the main video. So, first, I was already feeling burnout when I decided to take a hiatus, which I do think affected some of the quality of a few videos. A few mistakes I normally am better at catching were starting to slip through. Like when I did the one tornado video and I claimed the picture from 1966 was a picture of the tornado from like the 50s, and normally I'd be way better at catching that, but I was just getting to that burnout phase where just stuff was slipping through and that wasn't sitting right with me. So there was that, but there was also the wilderness I work in got hit by a tornado in March, and then just by several more storms, and it's just toppled huge trees, small trees, trees of all sizes, snapped them, just buried trail system. It was a nightmare, and by the time we got to cutting them out, and out there we have to use handsaws and crosscut saws and axes and all that stuff to do it, it was hot. It was getting really hot outside. It was like in the high 80s to the high 90s with often a heat index adding another 10 degrees on top of that. By the time I got to July, I was working in essentially 100-degree heat for, 6 hours a day, and I just killed myself every day for, about 2 months there, and I was just so exhausted that I just didn't have the energy to escape my video burnout, let alone work on any. And I knew in the summer that if I tried to force videos out, the quality would just suffer, likely even more so if I tried to force them out. And I just decided it was best to just take a break until I was recovered physically and also in a good mental headspace to try to work on videos again. There's been a whole mental up and down this year on top of everything too. It's been a lot. So TLDR, it was a combination of feeling burnout and knowing what that would mean for the video quality if I still forced them out, being physically exhausted from a hard summer of trail work, and lots of mental roller coasters this year. But now things are not as hectic, taxing, and the heat has cooled off, and I'm in a better mental headspace. So, I'm going to start doing periodic videos again. They will still be slow coming, but I will try to do maybe every 2 weeks or so, every 3 weeks, depending on how I am personally. I'm also going to be, I know I talked earlier this year, video topics and stuff like that, like the Hackleberg tornado. I think I'm just going to do ones that I'm just more interested in than anything else that may be more widely interested in when it comes to like tornadoes or shipwrecks or unsolved mysteries, that kind of stuff. I think I'm just going to focus on the ones I find more interesting for the time being. So yeah, like the big heavy hitters like that might get put on the back burner until I decide to do more videos like that. But yeah, because I want the videos to be good. I've also been posting to my second channel to get back into making videos, and that has been a big motivator to finally doing videos on this channel again too. That, and I also, as you saw, if you're a subscriber, I'm starting to upload audio material from my novel again, and that's also been a huge motivator. So yeah, I'm finally getting back to where I'm ready to start doing videos again. They're just going to be a little slower going, but I think that's fine. And here we are. And in my time off, the topic of this video came up. We have had the first EF5 tornado since 2013. So let's talk about it. And if you did listen to me ramble, thank you. It means the most. Now let's get to the main video that you're all here for. So it finally happened. The EF5 drought, as some call it, has ended. For the first time since the 2013 Moore tornado, a tornado has been rated EF5, and that tornado, after 4,414 days, occurred on June 20th, 2025, during the June 20th to 21st, 2025 derecho event. And the record-breaking tornado was this monster right here. It's even a low-quality image, like out of a horror movie. A tornado found footage horror movie. And there is footage. This is a still image from a video that I will show later in this. Even so, this image is pure nightmare fuel. It almost looks like something you'd see in the intro of some apocalyptic weather series or something. Which is appropriate, given the rating this tornado attained. So today we are going to talk about the unlikely EF5 of this year, the Enderlin tornado, the drought-ending monster that tragically took 3 lives over the course of its rather short life. We'll talk about the EF5 drought, the storm that spawned this tornado, and the unfortunate lives lost during it. This is the story of the Enderlin EF5 and the derecho that spawned it and 40 other tornadoes. First, let's talk some backstory and why it's such a big deal. The EF5 drought, as some call it, was essentially the unusually long gap in time between the last EF5 tornado and the one that occurred this year. That last EF5 being the 2013 Moore tornado, which left this damage path here. That tornado occurred on May 20th, 2013, and it was a violent, large tornado that killed 24 people and deserves a video of its own someday, honestly. After that, though, there was a curious silence. No tornadoes were rated EF5 the rest of that year, and then the next, and then the next year, and so on, all the way until June of this year. But what was the drought? Was it really a thing? Well, to avoid spending too much time on this section, I'll cover a list of theorized causes you can find on Wikipedia. Each one has a cited source. I'll link the page. Suggestions for the reason of the drought include the lack of tornadoes reaching typical EF5 tornadic wind speeds, lack of well-constructed buildings being struck. Look at the 2013 El Reno tornado as an example. That one is still something viciously debated about on if it should have been rated EF5 or not. Human subjectivity from person to person when it comes to reviewing damage indicators and how severe they are or aren't is also another reason suggested. And finally, the sheer difficulty of finding definitive EF5 level damage amid the carnage left behind by powerful tornadoes. Now, I'm not a meteorologist. I defer to whatever the experts rate these tornadoes as, and this is just me summarizing the reasons that I found for why the drought occurred. I'm sure there are more scientific ones, and if there are any that you know, or if you know anyone who's a meteorologist, please share. I always love seeing extra info about these in the comments. Now, we'll get on to what caused this tornado to get an EF5 rating later in the video, but on the flip side of this list, there are also a list of tornadoes that are argued should have been rated EF5, but were not rated. Some of these EF5 candidates, for example, include the 2014 Valonia tornado, which apparently had damage consistent with an EF5 tornado. A study from 2025 produced by Anthony Liza, I'm sorry if I said your name wrong, with the National Severe Storms Laboratory and other researchers with the University of Oklahoma's School of Meteorology, came to the conclusion that the likelihood of there not being any EF5 tornadoes in the 11-year span to be less than 0.5%. Tornadoes rated EF4 that this study cited as candidates include the 2021 Mayfield tornado, the 2023 Rolling Fort Silver City tornado, the 2014 Mayflower Valonia tornado, the 2013 Shawnee tornado, and several others. An additional note about the Valonia tornado is that meteorologists have said that if it had occurred before the F scale was replaced with the EF scale, then it likely would have been rated F5. The study also asked, should tornado ratings be more reflective of total impact and not solely tied to wind speed estimates? This is another topic that can be rather hotly debated online. Again, I'm not a meteorologist. I may have opinions on tornado ratings myself, but I'll defer to what the experts in the field actually say, because they're the ones there and they're the ones who know what to look for. A 2024 study also made mention of tornadoes that were not rated EF5, but had the wind speed typically associated with what an EF5 is typically expected to have. Again, 2013 El Reno's tornado, for example, remains a very hotly debated topic online on what its rating should really have been. There's a lot of people who strongly disagree with the EF3 rating. Other controversial tornadoes include some of the ones I mentioned earlier as well. On screen is also a chart with purple marking confirmed EF5 tornadoes in the US and red indicating candidate ones. All of this setup, however, finally brings us to Enderlin in 2025. Five days before this extremely violent and historic tornado, a storm was brewing as atmospheric conditions began to move into places like chessboard pieces. each one playing a role that would determine the strength and severity of the storm that was slowly cooking. Initial forecasting looked like this. The Storm Prediction Center forecasted that a shortwave mid level ridge, also known as a barometric ridge, which is an elongated area of high atmospheric pressure compared to the surrounding environment, an example of which can be seen in this on screen image here. This is from 2010 over the Pacific, but it's a good visual. This would move over the upper Mississippi River Valley and stay parked over the area through the next 5 days, which was the day that the tornado occurred. Below the ridge, conditions included a moist and unstable air mass that was expected to extend from the upper Missouri Valley up into the Great Lakes region. Instability and a deep layer wind shear left conditions ripe for localized severe weather, but as of June 15th, no one was sure just yet how bad the situation would be or how great the potential really was. It was also forecasted that a seasonally strong mid level trough was extended across the northern plains on the 20th. As the 20th drew near, the Storm Prediction Center said on its Day 2 outlook that a small area of uncapped and very unstable air mass, perhaps over the northeast South Dakota and southeast North Dakota. Here, a conditioned supercell and tornado risk will exist. Very large hail and tornadoes appear likely. On June 20th itself, the Storm Prediction Center said that the supercells that were beginning to develop were in a corridor where a higher tornado threat might exist. A few tornadoes touched down northwest of Enderlin, but these were EF2 to EF3 level strength. As I mentioned at the beginning, the derecho itself would spawn about 40 to 41 tornadoes throughout the course of its life. Now, the Enderlin tornado would also originally be rated only EF3. However, no one could have guessed that the first EF5 in over a decade was only hours away from touching down while we were on the 20th. The place it would be born would be a few miles from Enderlin, a small North Dakota town with a population of 851, according to the 2024 census. Now, nocturnal tornadoes are always scary enough, but the fact that this was the one to break the drought makes it all the more horrifying. It touched down at 11:02 p.m. local time. The first damage it did was snap branches off of trees at EF0 strength, but soon it would be uprooting entire trees, root balls and all, and lifting them into the air. First touching down at a distance from Enderlin of about 3.8 miles, the tornado was on the ground near 58th Street southeast in Ransom County. After pruning some trees as mentioned, the tornado intensified and widened, moving across open fields. It began snapping and throwing large trees while continuing to intensify. The tornado then struck the ADM Edible Bean Specialities grain elevator facility at EF2 strength. After this, it began to rapidly intensify once again, its track shifting northeastward. On screen now is an image of the tornado hook on radar as it was nearing Enderlin at approximately 11:08 p.m. For those who don't know, the hook echo is one of the clearest ways to spot a tornado with radar. If you look at the Enderlin one on the map, you can see the spot where the storm seems to be curling in on itself. That is the tornado. That is the hook. An even clearer example can be seen in this image of the hook echo in an EF2 tornado that struck Kansas in 2024. Back to Enderlin, the tornado was continuing to intensify, and it was at this moment that it reached its EF5 strength. As it crossed CPKC's Elbow Lake subdivision to the southeast of Enderlin, it derailed and toppled over multiple freight train cars. Several of these cars were lofted, and an additional 28 on top of that were toppled. This was the damage that caused the tornado to receive its EF5 rating. Also, to tell you about how much a tornado can vary at any one time, a home that was on the edge of the path right about here was struck by only EF0 level strength, with just damage to its roof. Tornadoes are not stagnant. We sometimes think when one is rated, EF5 or EF4, that's what it is the whole time, and that's an easy way to think. But in truth, it may only have that damage, say, in one little spot or one little strip, and the rest of the damage path is weaker. Tornadoes are weird. Tornadoes are weird. They can tear down a house, but leave a table with a glass still sitting, like, in the kitchen. Tornadoes are weird. This image you've seen once in this video already shows the tornado while it's south of Enderlin, likely around the time that it was at its strongest. After toppling or throwing the train cars, the tornado shifted its path again, turning north-northeast now, and it grew to its peak width of just over a mile wide. In this area, it toppled over a cell phone tower, which was anchored into the ground by 4 strong cables. In the same area, it snapped large trees, scoured crop fields, and leveled an empty at the time farmhouse, also shifting another one off its foundation. The damage in this area was rated from EF2 to EF3. However, the tornado was about to get stronger again. As it moved into Maple River, trees sustained EF4 level damage, and an entire forest along the river was just left leveled, described as only having the stubs of trees left behind in the wake of the tornado. One tree was debarked to the point it was described as being sandpapered. Other trees were ripped right out of the ground and lifted away, root balls still attached and all. They just came right up with them. The tornado then crossed North Dakota Highway 46. 2 homes were devastated here, and 2 deaths occurred in this area. One of the homes had a well-built garage nearby, and this building was obliterated. The tornado may have been at EF5 strength here too, but due to the anchoring of the structures here, this could not be determined, so it was rated high-end EF4 in this area. The tornado leveled both houses here, EF4 or not, and then it crossed over the Maple River, leveling another area of trees along the river. After this, the tornado began causing mostly EF2 to EF1 level damage. For example, one home had its windows blown out, but not much more. Some EF3 damage did still occur in this area, though. Trees were snapped and a farmhouse was leveled at EF3 strength, and one more person was killed here tragically. It also toppled more transmission towers at EF3 strength and wooden power poles. After this, the tornado narrowed and weakened. It looped back south and crossed County Road 16 twice, snapping trees at EF2 level strength. But it finally died at 11:21 p.m. local time. The tornado was only on the ground for about 20 minutes and for 12 miles, but this was the first EF5 tornado in over a decade. We're going to spend the rest of this video covering the aftermath, the still ongoing aftermath, and the tragically lost lives to this tornado. Originally, the tornado was only rated as an EF3. To boot, wind speeds were initially rated as being only around 160 miles an hour. However, all of that changed in October after those 33 derailed train cars, some of which, as you recall, were fully loaded with grain, were re-examined. This particular set of damage that we saw kind of stood out as unique. We wanted to investigate further, Carl Jones, a meteorologist with Grand Forks National Weather Service, said. At the time, Jones and his team were not sure how to determine just how strong the tornado would have had to have been to lift and carry a fully loaded train car. Working with a Canadian team, they eventually determined with the help of their model and comparing their data to strong tornadoes that had struck Canada, including powerful ones that had struck in 2018, 2020, and other years. And they, with that model, determined that the Enderlin tornado would have had a wind speed of more than 200 miles an hour to throw those train cars. 19 of the train cars that were thrown were fully loaded with grain. One of those fully loaded ones was thrown away from the tracks and into a field. Enderlin was just one of 22 tornadoes that struck on the 20th, but it was the strongest of them. It was also the deadliest to strike North Dakota since the 1978 Elgin F4 tornado. It also struck on the 68th anniversary of the North Dakota Fargo F5 tornado. Enderlin itself was not struck, though it did lose power. On screen, you can see the tornado path. Those killed during the tornado have their names and ages on screen right now. Some of the items belonging to the deceased, including a picture and tax return form, were found as far away from their home sites as 40 miles. The debris fallout reached as far as Minnesota. Also on screen now is a quote that I want you all to take a moment to read. I just think it'll mean more to you if you actually read what a survivor of this says than just hear me read it out to you. And for some in Enderlin, it's still not over. Federal disaster relief was approved to help in the recovery in September, but government shutdown has, as of now, stalled this aid in being delivered for the time being. As of recording this video, rebuilding and recovery efforts are still ongoing and will be forever remembered as the recovery from the first EF5 tornado in over 10 years. The derecho itself that spawned this tornado caused more damage than the Enderlin tornado. Widespread power outages affecting tens of thousands, wind damage, and flash flooding all occurred as a result of this storm. The highest confirmed wind gust was 120 mile per hour. This gust was recorded in South Dakota. For a little comparison, here's what about 80 mile an hour wind gusts can do to a forest. This was from a storm in June 2024, and this was just a single 80 mile an hour wind gust, but that should give you an idea. Now imagine what a 120 mile an hour wind gust could do. I don't even want to think about it. Wind from the 2025 derecho also blew out the windows of a hospital and flipped vehicles. This wasn't tornado damage, this was just the wind. All in all, as of now, the storm is thought to have caused almost $900 million in damages. The storm itself persisted all the way into New York, where it spawned a high-end EF1 tornado that killed 3 people in Clark Mills, New York, making that one of the deadliest tornadoes in the state's history. And because of that, I at least wanted to give it a moment of recognition since I haven't really seen that one get brought up, likely due to the damage sustained everywhere else and being overshadowed by the first EF5 tornado. On screen now is an image of the damage in Clark Mills from a Syracuse news site. One other thing about the derecho itself before we end things off. The National Weather Service adds this on its website. This was a unique event due to the combination of the violent tornadoes ahead of the derecho and the long duration of significant winds that followed the derecho. It also reads, the derecho portion of this severe event tracked from west to east across North Dakota during the evening hours, with widespread wind gusts over 60 miles an hour, with some locations gusting over 100 miles an hour. As the derecho moved into eastern North Dakota, it caught up with the tornadic supercell storms. The northern portion of the derecho weakened as it moved into Minnesota, but the southern portion regained strength and moved across portions of Minnesota through the early morning hours. Extensive damage was reported, especially in areas that gusted over 100 miles an hour. After the derecho passed, a portion of the region had to deal with a 2 to 3 hour period of 60 to 100 mile per hour plus winds, leading to extensive damage across this portion of the region. And that's gonna wrap it up. I do hope you enjoyed this video. What do you think about the fact that 2025 was the year of the EF5 making its return? Personally, I doubted that it would happen. Like, even with all those really bad tornadoes back in, like, March and everything, I was like, there's not gonna be one. And then this unlikely suspect tornado proved to be the one. I was actually open-mouthed when I first saw the news. I had just, like, went to the tornado subreddit one morning and just saw, like, 20 posts saying Enderlin's been rated EF5, and I was just like, huh? So let's chat in the comments about it. I'd love to know what your reaction was to the news. As for the next video, I do still have my list of topics, but I don't know how much I'm gonna stick to it for now, kind of like I hinted at the beginning. I want to just do videos that I'm more personally interested in, topics I'm more personally interested in covering, like this one I knew I had to talk about. I wanted to talk about it. Maybe I'll do another tornado, or maybe some shipwreck video or a mystery video. We'll see. Either way, it's great to be back on this channel, and I'll decide what's next soon. I haven't had the time, or if I haven't even decided by the time you see this, I may actually decide when I'm editing, who knows. I have had a lot of tornadoes suggested, some of which I am very interested in talking about, so I do have plenty of options aside from if I do decide to tackle the Hackleberg tornado. Anyway, sorry for rambling. For now, feel free to leave any ideas or comments or video suggestions. I do read them all. I do take topic requests. I do hope you enjoyed this video. Please give the video a like. It does help me grow, and it just means the most to me. And it also tells me that you did enjoy this video. You want to see more videos like it. So yeah, please consider giving the video a like if you enjoyed it all. And most importantly, thank you for watching, and have a good one, everyone.